Looking for a weight loss solution that actually works? Weight Loss by Hers provides access to GLP-1 medications with personalized care to help you hit your goals. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans delivered straight to your door if prescribed. Hers offers a holistic weight loss program with personalized solutions, including compounded GLP-1 weekly injections featuring the same active ingredient as Ozempic and Wegovy or oral medication kits. So if you've been struggling with your weight loss journey, it's time to find the best option that works for you through Hers. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/KKC. That's FORHERS.com/KKC for your personalized weight loss treatment options. forhers.com/KKC. Hers weight loss is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased. Here's the thing, it's kind of gross out. It's freezing. And even those of us that embrace the chilly weather, which is of course not me, we need something to break up long winter nights. Something that I love to do is treat myself to a little something. So I like to go and I like to shop online. And one of my favorite sites to go to is Quince, because you can treat yourself to everyday luxury, but at an affordable price. Something that everyone needs in their closet. In my opinion, the Quince's iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters are a must-have, which only start at $50. And if you really want to up the luxe factor, you can check out their Italian leather bags. You gotta get the tote bag. So whatever you're looking for, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. And they can do that by partnering directly with top factories and cutting the cost of the middleman, passing the savings on to you. And of course, they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel. So give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/KKC for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/KateCasey to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/KateCasey.
The amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. I hope that you are having a great week, and I've got a great episode for you because Ryan Bailey joins me to talk about a bunch of different shows, almost all of them on Bravo, with the exception of The Traitors on Peacock. So for Summer House, for example, we're going to talk about Paige and Craig. We're going to talk about Kyle and Amanda and Craig and this big fight between Kyle and Craig about spritzers. We're going to talk about Kyle and Hannah and Q scores. So a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, which we always say is really the root of most of the arguments on these shows. It's the stuff that happens off screen. Who gets invited to more opportunities? Who's making more money? Who gets the higher Q score? Who does Andy Cohen like best? Who is more in good graces with other shows that are on the network? All of those things are what lives rent-free in, I think, a lot of the cast members' heads, and we get to the bottom of it. We also talk about Southern Charm. We talk about Shep and Sierra and the text message going around the world, Austin and Craig's friendship. By the way, what is going on with JT? The guy's like in and out of the show. All the stuff that we love to dissect about Southern Charm. Ryan loves Southern hospitality, and he tells you why. We talk about Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Of course, we are looking forward to the last few episodes where Dorit and Sutton really begin to ramp up the arguments. And also the question of, is this really Dorit? Has she been hiding her personality? Then we talk about the Traitors. We're getting to the end of the season. Carolyn was just voted out. Gabby and Dylan are left. Tom Sandoval is left behind. There are a lot of people that are still on the show that we're kind of just trying to unpack, like who is going to win this show. I've known Ryan for many years. We're dorks who just love unscripted TV, and I suspect a lot of you guys do too. So if you're listening to this episode and you are screaming out the car window door, or you are walking around in circles in a shopping plaza, or you're on a hike or a run and you're like, I need someone else to listen to this to back me up, please send it via text or email or even, on any of your social media channels, because we want to share in the discussion of what's happening behind the scenes of these shows, and you're our people. So make sure you do that. Also, make sure that you are in my Facebook group, Reality Life with KKC. It's filled with really fun, interesting, cool people, and we're sharing lots more than just episodes of reality shows. We're talking about the books that we're reading, the stuff else we're watching on TV. By the way, love White Lotus. So make sure you check that out. And also make sure that you are subscribed to this podcast and also my What to Watch list at katecasey.substack.com. So here's my interview with Ryan Bailey. Ryan, one thing I just realized is we talk way too fast.
Really?
Like when we're in a riff.
We're like jazz musicians. We're riffing.
Scat. Yeah.
Well, we can wait, but Kate, haven't you? I've actually gone so far as to tell my listeners, you can slow it down. Like, you can. I'll listen to everything at 2 times the speed, like audiobooks and even podcasts I listen to. But you can also slow it down. So sometimes if I'm getting really hyper and getting really excited, I always suggest people just slow it down because I know it can be annoying.
Yes. Well, I just think like when you are with somebody that watches and talks about the same stuff you do, you get so excited. It's like hard to like slow it down.
Oh, that's it. Sometimes that's the other complaint. Like if I'll have somebody new on or something that I'm really interested in, I'll get super excited because you're so used to, or like I'll podcast a lot by myself. And then you talk to, like right now, I'm doing it right now. I get so excited to bounce off of somebody that I just start over talking. So guys, I realize I'm doing it right now. Do not comment.
Yeah, leave us alone. Yeah. We have a lot to talk about. There's been a lot that we've been watching. The first thing I have to ask you though, can we just talk about Fox Hollow Murders? Did you stay, has that made you stay up at night?
Well, Kate, I made the mistake of watching all 4 episodes back to back.
I did too.
And I had a sleepless night. And the thing is, it's like, it's such a case that decades ago. And so you want an answer now. Mm-hmm. And he, the documentarian, Alex Jablonski, who you spoke with, he is so on the right track of Mark Goodyear having something to do with this in some potential way. But also, I mean, I believe that if this does well, they're going to have a second part of this because also this didn't make the documentary, but obviously the man who now owns the house now, Mr. Graves, who wrote a book on it, the director kind of also said this guy is now obsessed with this case and the house.
Amityville Horrors.
It's like The Shining so there is so much more to this story, but overall, it was a cut above your regular true crime series where I felt there was like artistic value in it. I thought just the way he shot it was really just added to the eeriness of the whole project.
Would you go to that house and go in the pool? If you didn't even know, if you did not even know that there was a serial killer at one time on that property, wouldn't you walk into that indoor pool situation and go, no thanks?
By the way, that's you look at that pool, it's inside first off. There's mannequins like hanging out in certain photos. But yeah, the pool itself, who doesn't love pools? Not this one. Like this pool is so, even just the vibe you get just from a video of it is so eerie. Mm-hmm. I would realize if I went into that pool that I was like 60% chance I was going to die.
What about the kid playing in the woods with his friend, like kicking a ball around, and then comes across a skeleton?
There was 10,000 bones. So fragments of skulls are still being found in those woods. And it's so eerie, but also to talk about the celebrity of it all since this man took his own life, he never had to face a trial. So he never got the acclaim of the Jeffrey Dahmers. Right. Like we might never get the Netflix Ryan Murphy produced series of Baumeister. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was interesting too, because we do elevate these serial killers sometimes to almost weird celebrity status. And for me, I had never heard about this case. This was the first time I had heard about it. So I was locked in.
Again, I don't know why they want to continue living on this property. Can't you just like knock it down? But even if you have a park there, I mean, they're still going to be, you have to like dig several feet under and just like wipe the whole property out of all the soil to just feel good about having anything on top of that.
Well, and then the guy who lives there now, what a horrible joke. He said, well, the house has good bones.
By the way, the fact his name is Graves, it's like, you can't make this stuff up.
And he has the same bathtub that Herb used. Like the bathtub is the same bathtub. It is so weird. Yeah, I don't know if you would. I don't know a lot about property, but I just don't think it's worth it to have that many people have passed away in that area to like live there for good housing.
I'll tell you one other thing. So you notice how they said in the state of Indiana that you are not obligated to tell someone who's looking at a property that a bunch of people died. But like if it comes up, you have to say it. But like you don't have to bring it to their attention.
Where's that episode of Selling Sunset, by the way? Where is, I mean, like, because there's a lot of crazy things that happen in Los Angeles. If that would be just a great episode of just telling like all the Hollywood lore of each house that the Oppenheim brothers are trying to sell.
But I hope that the good people that are watching that series now, when they go to look at a property, regardless of what state they live in, just ask someone, has someone recently lived here who is a serial killer?
Yeah, by the way, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be yes. Well, but see, the Fox Hollow Murders is a perfect example. I think that's the power of podcasting right there, is because, you got to interview the director, and these are things that I wouldn't have known about otherwise. It's like, this is something where it's like, oh, I want to tell my audience about this because I genuinely was affected by it. I wasn't sitting there. It wasn't like watching an episode of The Traitors where I'm excited and I'm laughing. I was I was fully scared of this docuseries, but I thought it was well worth a watch.
Now, also think about it. Before we were podcasting, so few things were actually greenlit. So if there were podcasts like 20 years ago, so many more stories we would know about, something like this, for example, because of podcasting, the amount of content that you can put out versus like a streaming network and what's greenlit, storytelling to me, I think so much excitement that we have in conversations in social groups are things that we hear from podcasts. It's not always like these streaming networks. I feel like podcasts are really killing it.
Yeah, it's not legacy media anymore. When I was growing up, it was a different time, obviously, but it was, what you would see on Entertainment Tonight or E! News or Access Hollywood. And I think, the rise of streaming and the rise of podcasting kind of go hand in hand. And I think people are getting that these days. But now there's just such a overwhelming amount of all of it, of podcasts, of streaming shows. I was going over shows last night that I'm watching or I'm aware of. And I think we're at an all-time high in terms of shows that are actually interesting to watch.
Your background before podcasting is really in the acting world. And I always wonder, when you're watching some of these shows, let's take, for example, Summer House. Do you ever look at any cast member, because you're going to look at a different lens than I will, they have now considered themselves a character, like a Dorit, for example, yes. Dorit. Do you feel like she's playing a character? This is a version of herself we haven't seen yet? How, through the lens of an acting background, how do you look at some of these cast members?
Well, through that lens, that's why I really ended up disliking Lisa Rinna by the end of her run on Beverly Hills, because I felt like she was so doing a caricature of herself, where if you were in a class with her, you'd be like, bring it down. You're showing us too much. You're going way too, when she came on to when she left, you saw her amp up by 20% each season, it felt like. And Dorit, it was just, to me, from an acting perspective, it was a simple suggestion probably from the producers of, you need to share, period. You need to share, and you don't take no for an answer. And you've got to finally, you complain about Kyle to us all the time, you got to do it on the show. And so for me, that was a simple note that Dorit finally took to heart. And I think it is proving to be very successful for her. I feel like the fans have rallied around her. It's still a little mysterious in terms of what the actual hell is going on. And I don't believe Beverly Hills is nearly as exciting as this season of Salt Lake was, but that's unfair to compare, I guess. But yeah, from the acting lens, Summer House had a great scene last year at the end when Carl was talking to Amanda and Kyle in the bedroom about being afraid of telling Lindsay that he had talked to his mom and his stepfather about their relationship. And he goes, well, and then there's this. And we have this other shot of 3 cameramen surrounding them, which made us very aware that Carl is very aware of what he's doing. And those are the really interesting things of what they're trying to keep off camera. And I think the best reality stars, that's why we call them unhinged, because you're like, who does this when they know there's a camera on them? And some people just have this magical ability to push forward even if cameras are in their face, and they're not concerned about how they look. And that's why we celebrate them sometimes.
So let's talk about Summer House, because a lot of fourth wall stuff. And we know that there's this text that Kyle had sent and he enraged. because of an interview that Hannah Berner had done a couple years ago on Kyle or Daddy and talking about the dynamics of the show when Hannah was on, compounded with the fact that Craig now had a business that he felt like too close to his own. So it sets up all of these outside of the show matters, which we've always said we really think is what most of these shows are always about. So what do you think about what's going on with Kyle and Craig and Paige and this dynamic that exists within the show and outside of the show?
I mean, I think it's great. I mean, well, first off, you've got to laugh when there's a fight around spritzers. Like the fight is around spritzers. So that is already kind of an amazing fight. And Kyle's always taken everything to like DEFCON level 10. Like he's always, everything's just so passionate. And, you know, for better or worse, I love that he sends these texts. I mean, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 seasons ago on Summer House, he sent a 17-page email to all of the castmates with all of the notes about why he thought wasn't working, what was working. We never got to see the full 17-page document, just pieces of it. But he sends these texts, and he has to know in the back of his head, this will potentially make it on camera. And you don't want to go after Paige DeSorbo because Paige might lie in bed a lot, but she also knows how to handle herself. And especially somebody like Kyle that she knows she can clear in a second. But that doesn't stop Kyle from just like lambasting her with those feelings. And then to bring Hannah Berner into it, who was a cast member that was let go a couple of seasons ago. And the best thing about that text, you guys, is he brings up Q ratings. He goes, Hannah had the worst Q rating of anybody on our season of Summer House. And a Q rating is favorability in terms of like social marketing research. But a lot of people don't know what that means. So like, you know, it'll tell them who works on a show and who doesn't, who advertisers want to work with. And the fact that Kyle is that in depth about like, Hannah had a horrible Q rating, so how dare her come and talk about the show and change the narrative. But I think it actually is good for these shows. I wish Vanderpump Rules had even leaned in more to that, where it was just fighting over brand deals, because that was sometimes more exciting than them at a certain point pretending they worked at SUR 4 seasons ago.
Well, yeah, it just gives far more context, because we obviously, most of us can't imagine what it would be like to live in a share house in the Hamptons with someone who's like 15 years younger, and then someone that you probably don't speak to throughout the year. You know, you save it until those weeks that you're actually living together. It doesn't really make sense. So all of the other information, which really seeps into payment, like how much money they're making, how much money they make from ancillary deals. But I do think I was grateful about the Q score, because I think that lives rent-free in all of the cast members' heads all the time. Now, it could just be someone within their team that mentions it. It could be other cast members. But yeah, now that we know, Kyle is probably reminding everyone all the time how they're doing in the ratings, who's considered the top of the heap, what their score is. I kind of appreciate all of that.
I do. You can always tell the people that are really involved with Bravo and NBC Universal. And Kyle, especially, Kyle even name drops the specific person that is in charge of this at Bravo. And he says, ask this guy while he's drunk, which means Kyle's been drunk with this guy and pumped him for information, which I thought was a really...
That's very layered. So threatening you, like, here's the person who works behind the scenes in corporate. And also, I'm so close to this dude, we go out for drinks.
Yeah, but don't you notice that too? The other person I think is really good at it is, and you might not see it, you guys listening, but Dorinda Medley. Dorinda is very in with all of the NBC Universal people. And I don't know if that, I mean, I think that maybe just is who she happens to like be friendly with. But I pay attention to that kind of stuff because you notice Dorinda has a Peacock deal for, or at least a exploratory deal about the Bluestone Manor show. She was on The Traders. She's always being taken to these events. You know, she was at the SNL 50 after party, all of these things. So I think she has a really good relationship that she really cultivates and takes care of. And I think Kyle's another person that does that as well. Like, these people are willing to play ball. Let's do it for the good of the show. And, you know, you can kind of tell sometimes, I don't know if they're their favorites, but the people that they really want to work with.
Kate Chastain's another one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I love Kate Chastain, but Kate Chastain, people don't know, they gave her a talk show that's on Peacock and on their web. And I think it's called Bravo, Bravo, effing Bravo, that's out right now, where she interviews a couple of housewives. They're going to keep Kate in their team for as long as she's willing to do it.
Yeah. Now, do you think that there is a point, though, like with Kyle and Amanda, when they bring in the younger cast members, I felt like it was pretty jarring the first 2 episodes where I was like, this is like bordering on unrealistic. Why would these young cast members be hanging out with a married couple?
Well, I've given up on like trying to make sense of that. So to me, it's like, yeah, man, let's make this as weird as possible, because I even had this moment of watching Lexi Wood, the new cast member, who I guess is only 2 years younger than Sierra, but I felt like I was like, oh, this is like weird. Like maybe this is too young for me. Like I was like, we're looking at her in her like skimpy swimsuit. And I was like, But then I kind of, I appreciate the bizarreness of it, because the conceit of it is already weird. Like these are tertiary friends at best that share the summer house, but they already went younger in terms of Jesse and Wes, the guys. So they're bringing in new girls. So they're looking at the overall survival of Summer House. But yeah, we're not going to go the other way. They're not going to invite the Baldwins to stay at the Summer House, even though they're in the Hamptons as well.
Well, which I would love. But at some point, does it make sense to have Kyle on the show anymore then?
It's always going to make sense, because he's going to make it make sense.
Door. Like he has to live next door.
He's like Mr. Roper. He's
like watering the lawn.
He's the Kramer that comes in and yells about spritzers. Hey, I've got your lover boy delivery. Here you go. Like, eventually that is going to happen. There's going to be a passing of the baton, but I think Kyle would fight that tooth and nail. He's going to prove his worth. And, Gabby last week on the show said something that was like, why is Carl even here with his big ass fake teeth and his non-alc drinks? Well, he's there for the reason you're all there. He gets a paycheck. He started this 9 seasons ago. You think anybody is going to turn down free money? Like, no, of course he's going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but she does have a point. Like, how does this work? Because he doesn't seem to be friends with the younger people. Like, he's just kind of friends with Kyle, and he cannot stand to be around.
But if we're talking about how this works, that's why it works. His ex is in there, so that's immediate drama, even though it turned out not to be that much drama. But the same question, even Gabby said in her talking head, could be asked of Lindsay. You're pregnant. What are you potentially doing here at the Summer House?
You have no arguments for me on that one, because I'm imagining myself when I was pregnant with my first one, and it would not be hanging out in a share house with a bunch of people drinking. No.
Could you imagine if one of your births was a water birth at the Summer House? Like, could you imagine Jesse Solomon singing to your baby as it enters the world? Like, so for me, that kind of mess I enjoy.
I do have like 10 friends in the room when I have a baby, so maybe I'm the wrong person to ask. But
oh my God.
I do see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I say. Move over the Baldwins. I was thinking last night, I've always told Kate she needs the reality show of her family, because I was like, it seems way more organized, your family, than the Baldwins do.
Here's what I know is true. Most weight loss plans are one size fits all. So frustrating. They don't take into account each person's individual needs, which could mean dietary restrictions, medical issues, or other personal needs. That's why you're going to love Noom. It's built for your psychology and your biology, meeting you where you are. Noom's personalized programs feel more sustainable than any other, more restrictive weight loss programs. And also, it doesn't shame you when you choose to treat yourself, and that's important. I like this company because it's got a psychology and biology-based approach and a super easy app to use with lots of great features, including daily lessons, coaching, and flexibility. I think it's your time to start. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. Based on 3.5-year study of actively engaged Noom users with minimum BMI of 25. Individual results may vary. Visit Noom.com for more information. This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. A lot of you are starting new rituals for the new year. Whatever you do, you can come into your own way with extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV. I have to say my favorite flavor is the new Hydration Multiplier Sugar-Free Raspberry Lemonade, because it's a bright, zero sugar flavor combining notes of ripe, freshly picked raspberries and citrusy, zesty lemon. I just take the pack and I pour it into a large glass of ice cold water and I knock it back and I feel like $1,000,000, and my skin, it looks so much better. And it really gets me going on my day. I think you're going to love it too. I love the benefits. I like feeling like I'm hydrated all day long. And if you're somebody who's outdoors or plays sports, this is an absolute must-have. So listen, break the mold and own your ritual. Just one stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. So embrace your ritual with extraordinary hydration from Liquid IV and get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code Kate Casey at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code Kate Casey at liquidiv.com. You know, it's funny you say that. I was watching that show last night and thinking, I don't think she actually takes care of those kids.
Oh, I had a full panic attack watching the Baldwins. I had major anxiety watching that show. Well, they at one point named one of the nannies. They showed her in a shot getting into the minivan. But I mean, I don't know. It seemed, I don't know enough. I don't have any kids. It seemed, it just seemed like a mess.
I felt like the kids are irrelevant to the story, which is weird. I think they probably got the deal with TLC because TLC thought, well, at least we can make this sort of like, 97 Kids and Counting, where you see all the different kids' personalities. The kids are sort of like irrelevant to the show. It's clearly, she feels like it's her vehicle for success. Like Alec is basically not even important. It's all about Hilaria. And that is so weird because I don't find her a compelling person. I don't find her interesting. And I also think she's a little bit of a scammer.
Well, a little bit. I mean, they kind of explain away the Spain accent thing really easily. Like she explains it of like, well, I mean, it's amazing to be bilingual. I think that's such a positive experience. And we grew up in a bilingual household and my family lives in Spain now. And it was like a non-issue. And I love, and Kim Kardashian does this season of the Kardashians as well, where she puts it back on the audience. You guys should feel guilty. You guys are the one that actually have the issue, not me. I'm here loving my husband and these billion kids, and you guys are making it very sad. And, where I will say, obviously the parasocial relationship, we hop on things with a vengeance, but still there is this magic ability that these people have to never accept anything that they did wrong at all. Totally. And they always logisticize it to themselves so well. Like they really, that you're like, oh, do you fully believe this? Or that you're still kind of like scamming a little bit.
Well, I did find that part of the Baldwins really frustrating. Is like the accent has totally disappeared. And why can't anybody get her to answer like honestly well? Like why can't one of these producers say, okay, we're going to show some archival footage. You don't even know that the word cucumber means in English anymore. You have to address the fact that there were a period of time where you were completely taking on a culture that's not, it was appropriation
and you were being
to the highest degree.
You were being introduced in front of you as somebody that is from a different culture entirely. And that's how you were being marketed. And she in front of her. Yeah. So that's the part. If you were so proud of being bilingual, you didn't bring that up in the first part of your career. And but by the way, like we all make these insane, stupid mistakes in our lives, but very few of us will ever admit that we made them. And it's really ballsy then to put yourself on television. And, obviously Alec is going through at this time, the trial for the Russ shooting. And I want to know what Alec really is thinking. You just see those bags under his eyes, and you see this man who was at the top of his game just 10 years ago, winning Emmys for 30 Rock, the SNL imitation, movie star before that, and now he has 7 kids. He even says that he's allergic to cats in this episode. She gets 4 cats. She gets like 4 cats.
She doesn't care about him.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I go that far, but I really wonder what the reality is behind the cameras, because
I think it's all about her.
Well, we know Alec has a temper. So how does that work? Or is it just a temper for paparazzi?
I think he has convinced himself that she is this other narrative, that she is this like Mary Poppins, super positive. She is so masterful that she has convinced him of a reality that is, he's not living on planet Earth, clearly.
Well, how could you at this point? She is so all
about herself. Well, remember, he was in the beginning, like, so adamant that he never be photographed. He wanted a completely private life. He would get in fights with paparazzi. Then do you remember all of a sudden he meets her, and next thing I know, she's like a correspondent on Access Hollywood. Yeah. And I was like, wait, what? Like, isn't she like a yoga instructor?
And now he has a reality show. And they were introduced by that Sarah lady who was in Bad Vegan. Remember that Netflix series? That's how they met, was through that lady. And it is...
who's also like a con,
would you interview Hilaria if you were offered?
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, my father is the original Ilaria Baldwin because he speaks with an Irish accent. And even though he's an American. So I have little tolerance for people who are like born in one country and then develop a fake accent and try to pretend that they're like, my dad told my husband that he went to boarding school in Galway. And I'm like, you went to Great Valley High School in Paoli, Pennsylvania. I saw your yearbook picture. It's the same thing with Ilaria.
Well, I worked with somebody once that did fake a British accent for the entire time that I was working with this person. And we found out afterwards. But we just let this person keep doing it because it was like, I don't know, man. Like, life is tough. Like, whatever.
Like,
if you
for
want to fake an accent.
Job? Is that
no, this was a clerical part of that job.
Okay, no, I don't. I wouldn't be down with that. I would see you're not much nicer than I am.
But what am I? You're not going to call like that's. But it's like we're trudging through our daily lives. If you want to do an accent and put on fronts, go for it. Like, it doesn't affect my life at all. Like, if we know it, like that just made me feel sad. Like, I didn't want to call the person out.
Yeah, maybe if it was a stranger, but when it's your own dad and you're like, come on.
Oh, yeah, this wasn't anybody related to me at all.
Do you think that the Baldwin kids later in life are going to go, what the hell? Like, first of all, a couple of them are for sure going to do tell-alls. We're going to be like, my mother was a monster. It was all about her. And also, wait, as an aside, it's hard to feel terrible for them because they live in this big apartment in Manhattan, 5 bedrooms where I'm like running the numbers through my head. Then this huge property in the Hamptons. And I think they also bought a property in Vermont. And I'm like, this is like not a typical TLC show, which is like 14 people live in a 3-bedroom home.
Or you have a huge pimple on your back. Like,
right, exactly.
TLC show.
Yeah.
What were you thinking about last night? I kept thinking about like, just Alec just watching the show, like, oh, let's turn on the show to see our premiere, and then seeing the commercials for 90 Day Fiance and all this like actual TLC. Like him, like, wait, what network are we on? Like, obviously he's very aware, but I don't think they're doing a lot of press for this show. But I was saying that last week, like, wouldn't it be insane if he has to do a press conference with like Cody Brown from Sister Wives or Big Ed or something like that?
I would really enjoy that, yeah.
Like going from Meryl Streep to Big Ed would be or like Lauren Michaels. He's like buddies with Lauren from SNL. Like, is Lauren Michaels going to turn into the Baldwins? And he's going to like, Alec, I loved you on the Baldwins, you know?
Do you think that Lauren is watching this? Because I feel like a lot of people will tell me that everybody in his circle knew that she was conning him, but didn't want to say anything because he was too happy.
Hey, that's the documentary or book I want to read is that Hamptons social scene, because you got Stern in there, you got Lauren Michaels, and I'm reading this great biography about Lauren Michaels that came out last week by Susan Morrison called Lauren, and it really talks about how he cultivated all of these friendships with very successful people as his stature rose. So, his best friends all of a sudden were Paul Simon, Mick Jagger, Steve Martin, and they would all gather in the Hamptons. And so it is still like Carson waving a comedian over. So when you get invited to Lawrence Hampton's estate, they'll have these just lush afternoon and evening dinners where, Jimmy Fallon's there. And, if you get the call up, like Bill Hader talked about being really nervous for one of those dinners because it'll be the old guard and he'll mix in some of the new guard. He has his favorites and he has his non-favorites. And to Lauren's credit, he is stuck by Alec Baldwin. He has let him go on the 50th. He's had him on this season, and he did not distance himself through all of Alec's troubles. But it's really interesting, that social scene, because they all, like Billy Joel, they all, John Bon Jovi, they all hang out together in the Hamptons. Because I'll hear Stern talk about it sometimes on his show. But that is the documentary which we'll never see that I would love to see. I think I think they are making fun of aspects of Alec behind his back, like any good social scene would do.
I think a lot of it is like, what a dumbass that like he believed everything she was telling him.
Well, but just talk about a string of horrible luck. And they all, obviously, somebody did lose their life. And that's why the gravity of this show.
It's bizarre.
Ilaria keeps reminding us that she's aware of the tragedy of this, and she's very smart that way. She keeps reminding.
Do you think they added that in later? Do you think
I think
enough of that? We got to do some pickups.
I think that was part of the contract. Like, I think they're getting. Isn't it interesting that the edit is more towards Alec's case than anything Ilaria has done in the past? It's all towards Alec about to get sentenced for this Rust shooting, instead of how I kind of knew Ilaria, when she became on my radar was through all of the cucumber situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to keep watching it. By the way, I'm going to say having said all that, I'm watching it every Sunday.
Yeah.
I might not cover it, but I'm watching it.
I feel like they're going to have to do a lot of post stuff because they probably filmed a lot of stuff and they didn't anticipate that the case would be dismissed. And now they've got to do post work to kind of.
Oh, wait, you thought they were gunning for Alec to be going to prison and that's why they did this?
Maybe like he's going to have a complete mental breakdown. I think they were surprised that it, was dismissed because I saw reports that said that he was really difficult to film because he was like telling these cameramen how to do things, which of course you would expect. So I can't imagine they were like, let's give this guy like a great edit because he's so joyful to be around.
But to go from movies and Emmy-winning television shows to a reality show that have like run and gun shooting styles, not everything is lit like it's a Kubrick film. That has got to be a jarring...
cameraman in capri pants.
Yeah, you're seeing a guy in khaki shorts. That's like a come to Jesus moment of like, oh my God, because now you've mixed your personal life in with your professional, and that's what reality stars have to do.
He's doing it for her. He feels like he owes everything to her, and she wants to be a star.
But every dime of that should be going into trusts for these kids. Like we were trying to tabulate how much those private schools are, and it was like it's $400,000 a year for one kid at some of these really ritzy private schools. They have 7 kids each year.
Well, I know. That's another thing. I'm like, why don't you live in the Hamptons? Why do you live in the city with all the tuitions? The other weird part about it was when he kept saying 7 children. I'm like, you have 8. What are you talking about?
Well, he doesn't count Ireland, so
that's so messed up.
Well, it's from his tester marriage. It's from his,
that is horrible.
And he's doing it right this time, And we also had that voicemail that he left Ireland like decades ago when he called her a pig. Remember?
Mm-hmm. Who could forget?
Yeah, but also, I mean, you can also tell that this man obviously is very charming. He, he is a fantastic actor. Like that's that thing, it's like he's really good at what he does. But at this point, when you are 65, 66 years old, you're now in reality television. Can you get back to like critically acclaimed movies or prestige television?
He can always get back to it, but I don't know what this woman's going to be doing.
Well, remember, she was offered Housewives. They were in discussions for Beverly Hills for a minute. Remember that?
I know, but I don't know. Like, in theory, it sounds like a good idea, but we know that there are a ton of people that have conversations with these production companies and they're quickly like, forget about it. For whatever reason, they actually weren't dynamic on camera. There was a weird dynamic with the family that they didn't want to film or what. I don't know.
Could you imagine a scene with Alec Baldwin and PK? Could you imagine a scene with Alec Baldwin and Mauricio?
He'd be like, you're a loser. Get the hell out of here.
Get the F out of here. Like that's what we were robbed of. But I do think they made the smart decision because I think Beverly Hills would have kicked it into a whole different direction.
They don't, but that's why they sold it to TLC. They would never want to be on Bravo or Hulu or Netflix because it would require them to answer more questions. TLC probably said, let's make it light and fluffy.
Yeah, and I like that they focus on Alex's OCD about cleaning everything.
Right.
That was a new piece of information that I was not aware of. But I like that they're an influencer family now, potentially. I hope they have a YouTube channel soon.
God help us. The one other thing, by the way, about the Summer House thing, does it really matter if you've got 2 spritz companies? Like, who cares? The fact that he's like, well, you're invading my space. It's like,
that's what I love.
Everybody can have a lipstick.
It's like everybody can have a podcast. We're all going to have a spritzer one day, you guys. But the funny thing is, listen, you kind of, if you read into it, you're like, oh, this is how stressed Kyle is. Like Kyle truly has been trying to make Loverboy happen. And by the way, it is happening. I think it's getting there. He's trying to go for that Bethany Frankel deal and he's working so hard. So when Craig Conover, it's not even his spritz brand. Craig was just endorsing Spritz Society, which is Claudia Oshry's husband's spritzer company. So, and also on Craig knew that Kyle was probably not going to take too kindly to it because there's only one spritzer as it, in the Summer House world, and that is Loverboy. We see it everywhere, every episode. I mean, Kyle, I don't even think drinks Loverboy, but he always has one in his hand because he knows the camera's going to capture it. It's always Loverboy. So I understand the anger if you feel like you're under the gun and you only have so many years to have this business take off. So that I can understand.
Yeah, but do you think
potentially?
Isn't there probably some contractual thing if he's going to be promoting the product on the show that only that product can be sold? Or maybe there was a loophole and he was like, oh shit, I didn't sign that part of the contract. So Craig can walk into a scene with the Spritz Society and then I'm all screwed? Well,
the funny thing is though, Craig is not the one that brought this up. It's that Kyle brought this up on Watch What Happens Live. So
that's right. That's right.
5 or 6 months ago, he was on with Andy, and Andy said, just offhandedly asked a messy question. And Kyle took the bait and and you could tell he was very angry at Craig. And that's how this started. And then it made its way onto Summer House. If that question was not answered in that moment, we wouldn't potentially be having the storyline that you're going to see coming up this week. But I'm all here for it. This kind of pettiness, it might be high level to them, but it's low level for us. And I would much rather watch this than a Scandival level event again or a Tom
Karen
Girardi.
Huger,
God.
DUI.
Dude, Wednesday she gets sent. I don't know when this comes out, but she's going to, that's definite jail time. Definite.
I know. So
how do you not get jail time?
Well, and you should 4 times. Give me a break.
Oh my God. Karen Huger on Love After Lockup. Could you imagine that?
Yes, I can. Absolutely.
Poor Ray.
I feel like she probably has a couple boyfriends in the queue, right?
Well, that's what supposedly comes out next week at the reunion. One of the many reveals is that she was potentially with another man that night and the man ran off when the car had the accident.
Class act. Wow. She knows how to choose them.
Well, she should know how not to drink and drive by the 4th time. That's insane.
She's just a disaster.
Imagine life teaching you that lesson that many times.
I know, but that she lives in this world where she encircles herself with people that just tell her she's the greatest person ever. No, there are no consequences for people with that kind of ego.
I will tell you though, Kate, when I got to meet her briefly, and I did the same thing. I felt like I was talking to royalty all of a sudden. She has this air about her where I thought I was like, shit, is this Beyonce? I was so excited. I was so enraptured by the moment where you get caught up in that thing. And then you realize afterwards, but I don't know. I just, it's very different than Shannon Bedore, who went on the season and took full responsibility. Whether you think she paid her price or not, like I said, it's up to you. But she took full responsibility. Karen has done everything to not take any responsibility. And so there's this vast difference in terms of, coming back to television. They're obviously going to bring Karen back after the prison sentence. And I hope it's a very different story when they do.
The text message Shep sent the girl that was his make-believe girlfriend. Was that the worst? That was so painful.
It was the worst, but it was the worst in the sense of I said on my show, I was like, man, thank God Facebook wasn't around when I was in high school because I would have put so many sad bastard poems up there that I tried to write poetry when I was in high school. And I would yeah, of course. And there were so many tears or why this person didn't like me. And I would have put it all up on there and it would have come back to haunt me. Now, the difference is Shep's in his 40s. But it is this thing, you've talked to Shep many times. He does consider himself like a poet, a Kerouac, kind of a, he loves reading, he loves writing, he loves these things. So he thought that was a banger of a text. He thought, whoa, these are pearls of wisdom coming at me. I'm going to throw in a TED Talk reference. Oh, she's not going to know what hit her. And that thing, we all have that thing. We can laugh at Shep, but we all have that thing where we've thought in our heads something sounded so good. This is so, and you didn't run it by anybody.
Nobody.
And he was so excited to wake Austin up to read this text. And Austin immediately, and he was like, what, dude, what? It was, and then Craig has that same reaction. To me, that's great reality television. But, everybody's like, oh, well, Shep's getting a little taste of his own medicine. Yeah, maybe, but it is one of those things that I think we've all been there in terms of not putting our heart out on the line, but that's what he thinks he's doing. Hey, I'm putting it all out there on the field. I'm set, she's like a 25-year-old girl, dude. What did you really think?
Well, you know what I wanted? I was like, this would have been better if the producer had been like, show me some videos and some pictures some sort of text message exchange, which can prove that you spent time with her. Because she made it seem like, I don't know what this guy's talking about, but I think it would have been juicier to have all of these photos of like them together on trips or FaceTimes.
Well, I mean, she did come and visited it. Like she visited in Charleston. So right there, that already kicks it to a little bit of beyond friends. They never had the conversation, but there was obviously something more, but you're right. And then
she's working overtime to convince us that like this guy, I would never in any capacity be hot for somebody at this age that lives in another area. I don't know what he's talking about. And I'm like, but what really happened? Because he told me, he's like, we were very much together. We were very much in love. But then the other people in the cast are like, huh?
Yeah, so they were all very confused.
Very confused. It's almost like an investigation discovery project.
Oh God, I don't need another Baldoni Lively with Shep and Sienna. But did you see this that happened overnight? I don't know if you're watching The White Lotus, but Oscar Isaacs, who plays the dad, Mike White told them to watch Southern Charm to base. So Oscar Isaacs is doing a dead-on Thomas Ravenel impersonation.
He does look like him.
And then did you see Thomas Ravenel had another Twitter tweet like Kanye storm over the weekend and said some really wild things about Whitney and Miss Patricia.
Well, he claimed that Whitney has been with every single woman that's been on the cast.
Yeah, if anybody's on Southern Charm, Whitney's been with them, sexy time wise.
I don't know if I believe that.
You can't. By the way, Thomas Ravenel has not proven to be a reliable narrator in any sense. And he pops off like Kanye pops off. So you already have to kind of dismiss it. But, but
wait, does that mean that Parker Posey's character is a little bit Patricia?
Well, I don't know about that because before I read that article,
obsesses over the oldest son. That probably was like it.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I was kind of thinking there was a little bit of Sutton in Parker Posey.
Oh, maybe.
A little bit of just like that kind of, there was like a scene last night when that girl comes up to her and says, I spent a weekend with you at a baby shower or something. And she's like, it was very Sutton to me in that moment.
Yeah.
Thumbtack presents the ins and outs of caring for your home. Out. Uncertainty, self-doubt, stressing about not knowing where to start. In. Plans and guides that make it easy to get home projects done. Out. Word art. Sorry, live, laugh, lovers. In. Knowing what to do, when to do it, and who to hire. Start caring for your home with confidence. Download Thumbtack today.
This is a mini meditation guided by Bombas. Repeat after me. I'm comfy. I'm cozy. I have 0 blisters on my toes. And that's because I wear Bombas, the softest socks, underwear, and t-shirts that give back. One purchased equals one donated. Now go to bombas.com/Wondery and use code Wondery for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/Wondery and use code Wondery at checkout.
Okay, Beverly Hills. Are you still reeling from Sutton's trip to Augusta?
I'm not reeling at all. I'm pretty grounded, Kate. No, I mean, I'm really...
They're my favorite episodes when we get to meet the parents.
No, see...
I love that. They're my favorite.
I didn't appreciate that specific episode until like my second viewing, because at first I thought, the pacing's off on this. But then the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like we really see exactly why Sutton is the way she is. And you see Sutton, you can see Sutton still like try and fail to break out of those familial bonds that we pick up and those traits from our parents. And I think Sutton has a lot of that anger that she gets from Reba and maybe because of Reba. But I thought it was very interesting. And I thought the Garcelle thing, they painted it like it was going to go nuclear because it was like, that's none of your business, Garcelle. And then they actually just had a nice conversation. So I loved that. I want Reba on more, but I am also aware that Reba is a certain type of Southern lady set in her ways. And I'm surprised she agreed to do this show because I imagine a lot of conversation is happening around her.
Well, also, that's the only person that you can probably get to do a show. Somebody who's set in their ways, who's not introspective, who has Kate, no clue how horribly they come off. Like the scenes with Garcelle, I was like, oh man. But the weird thing is she's a therapist.
But like, isn't the South about holding secrets and not involving your family business with the town. And I feel like I wanted the producers to ask Reba if she was ashamed of Sutton for going on Beverly Hills in the first place, because it spills a lot of secrets that I think people in the South are very prideful of keeping in that family. And so that was something that I was just kind of curious of. And if Reba makes an appearance at the reunion, maybe we'll get I think she comes back for the end of the season.
I want to know what she said. Oh, she does? I want to know
Yeah, she comes to LA for Sutton's fashion show, right?
Oh, yeah. It'll be interesting in the reunion to hear Sutton say what she felt watching those episodes back. And Garcelle, too, how she felt watching the scene.
Well, it seems like Sutton came back angrier. It seems like we had that scene with Dorit where Sutton just sat in one place for 45 minutes waiting for Dorit to come down and ended up walking out. Dorit called her a douche, which, by the way, I used to say douche all the time in middle school. Are we bringing that back? Is that like a new thing? Yeah.
Maybe. Okay, last part of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills stuff. What do you think about Dorit and talking about PK's alcoholism?
I do this recurring joke. Like she'll take any chance to be like, my bloated alcoholic husband. Like she always brings up like how, but then it's weird because then she'll throw in something of like, oh, we talked last week and we had, we just acted like nothing happened. And it was like the old PK again. So I'm like, which lane are we going? Mm-hmm. And I'm very confused because Watch What Happens Live at the beginning of this season, Dorit said that they were still together, and this was after the shooting of this season. But it also goes to show you that we really can't trust a lot of what these people tell us, because
I agree with you.
They had obviously been having issues for years. We never once saw them fight on camera. We never once saw them fight. And it looks like their fights are monumental, according to PK and Dorit. I'm not saying I want to see them fight, but I do think it would add a lot to the story and make us understand a little bit more why they possibly shouldn't be together or should be separated. So for us, it was this revelation that we always kind of suspected, but all of a sudden Dorit's spilling a lot of these secrets. And I want to see that 7-page email he sent her that she talked about at Kathy Hilton's Capri lunch or Capri dinner.
You know, it just kind of like the Shep thing. It would be fun if they had like bonus episodes, maybe on the app, where you get to interview, or we get to see them interview the PK Dorit nanny, the landscaper, somebody who carpools, and just to get their insight for more context.
Well, see, they're so protective over their intellectual property that's like hard but I will say, I always am so interested from a production standpoint how annoyed they are with all of us. You know, we like I'm not talking about podcasters, but just like the viewers at large, because now it's like the Reddit threads and like, you know, like people are doing like detective work on all these people. And it just makes their job so much harder because we go into these shows understanding, or at least at this point, I hope we understand that this is produced. It's not fake, but it's produced. Like they know what they're trying to get out of a scene. Like they're setting up all of the building blocks. They know that they're going to shoot at this location with these 3 people. They've called their lighting people and their sound people. These are things that take time and money. They also prep them. Like, do you remember what Sutton said about you last week? Do you have any reaction about that? Do you think you're going to bring that up today? And I just feel like we've potentially made their job that much harder. But in a sense, maybe we've made the shows sometimes that
we have
much better.
I'm going to say we have. We make it more layered. The thing,
should it be this layered? Can it hold the weight of these layers? Can these shows hold that weight?
Maybe not. Maybe that's a good question. Lastly, you're crazy about Southern hospitality. Tell the good people listening why they need to watch it.
I just think it's what I was talking about a little bit with the Spritzer fight. It is, well, first off, they're kids in their 20s that are not famous yet. Yes, this show has been on for 3 seasons, but they're not famous yet. They still live in Charleston. They still truly work at this Republic bar. And I visited Charleston. I saw them working there. Like they really do. And they're not like, they're getting low level fame at this point, but it's really, they really do know each other and they have these relationships. And like Emmy and Will have been dating for a long time. And Will, you know, it seems like the show, there's these cheating incidents that keep popping up. And Emmy does not want to hear any of it. And she also wears the opposite of waterproof mascara. So she's always crying and mascara's dripping down like Erica Jane. And it's you're like, oh my God, this is like you're a reality star. This is truly amazing to watch. And she doesn't want to listen to any of her friends warn her about Will. And Will be like, yeah, I was completely, you know, I was talking crap about her and I feel bad. I was just going through something. But like everybody has a cheating story about this guy and she won't listen to it. So you have that. You have Joey Bibles, Joe Bradley, who hooked up with Luann, and that was finally admitted. Dated Danielle from Summer House. You know, he's now finally got the love of his life, who is the resident DJ. You always need a DJ in these shows, Maddie Reese. And now they did a fake wedding in Vegas, but he wanted it to be a real wedding because he wants to lock her down. And so you have all of these kind of things that in your 20s when you felt like so deeply about things. But I think it's great for a viewer because we realize it's important to them, but it's not, it's like easy breezy to watch.
It's like escapism at its best.
Yeah, it's just enough. And they're making mistakes right and left like we all do in our 20s. And 30s and 40s. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's real. To me, it is one to watch. These people all have real relationships with each other. So there's real stakes involved. And I also love that there are many, there's many scenes with like gay dudes and bisexuals, and like they open it up to the reality of a young person's situation these days. We're not just seeing hetero relationships. And I think that's really important. And also, they're not treating it as some momentous event like, look, we are celebrating LGBTQ. It's just a part of a story like it should be like anybody else. It's just life. And I think that's another thing that I appreciate about that show.
All right. Well, what is the one thing you're going to watch this weekend? It's not going to be Love is Blind because I've asked you to watch it and you're like, I cannot catch up to that.
There's going to be 30 things. What are you talking about?
I know, but like the one thing that's the top of the pile.
The Oscars.
Oh, wait.
Which you're going to come on my show next week.
Yeah, we need to tell them. What are we going to do?
We're going to do an Oscars recap on So Bad It's Good. So get ready for that, folks.
Wait, are you going to dress up? Are you going to dress up for this?
Yeah, I'm going to dress up. Yeah, of course.
I'm going to wear big earrings and wait, maybe I can find like an over-the-top ugly dress that I can wear.
Well, just from the mid chest up, you know,
right? Just like a one shoulder ruffled, peacock looking
something
thing.
Ruffled, or like something the Potomac lady that had the high angles on her dress. But that's the one thing. But the other thing, like I don't know if you're like I'm obsessed with Severance.
You and my husband we're way up the same alley on that. He loves all that stuff.
Love it. But there's so much good television. I mean, you really are the one that, what are you watching this weekend? Because there's another drop of Love is Blind, right?
Yes. Well, I've been getting the episodes earlier. So that's the problem is like I want everyone to know, but they can't know. And it's been fun.
Isn't that hard keeping secrets like that? Like I've had that a couple of times and it's really hard. It's really, the Traitors, of course, the Traitors, duh. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, I had Carolyn on the show this weekend. If anybody's fans of the Traitors, Carolyn, I don't want to give it away, but Carolyn, if you watched her and loved her on Survivor and the Traitors, go listen. She's exactly how she is on those shows.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you feel like the spaz act, is that accurate or played it up or strategy?
Well, I don't think of it as spaz. I mean, I thought Danielle like crying when the vote happened. To me, that was, but no, I think that's actually, she's a very nervous person. I think those are like her actual quirks and tics. Weirdly enough, I think she could even play it up more, but I thought it actually worked so much in her favor. But I'm curious because I think she'll keep getting cast on reality competition series. Mm-hmm. And at this point, it's like Boston Rob. You don't want everybody to have that big of a spotlight on you and for them to know your moves. So I'm more curious to see the next show she lands on. And I'm curious if she'll be part of the Survivor 50 cast.
Probably.
I hope so.
Who's going to win this whole show? Who's your money on?
I'm scared Sandoval's going to win or come close. They've given him a very kind edit and, it's the quirky Sandoval we knew back in the day. And I was trying to explain to Carolyn why we don't like or why we've had issues with Sandoval.
She probably has no idea.
So she doesn't want Vanderpump Rules. So it is interesting in that aspect of explaining it to somebody. But I think Gabby might have a good chance at winning.
Me too.
And I would love that because she's somebody that I think everybody should be a fan of.
Yeah. Again, we will be covering the Oscars.
Yes. Get ready.
Will be hilarious.
Get ready, folks. Let's see if Kylie Jenner will be on the red carpet.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
The Amazing
thank my great guest, Ryan Bailey, and remind you to click subscribe, put a 5-star review as well. Make sure you join the Facebook group, Reality Life with KKC. Also, make sure that you follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at KKCCA, TikTok, it's KKC, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky at KKC, and bonus episodes by going to patreon.com/KKC. Check back tomorrow for an all-new episode about the Matthew Perry documentary.
And now, a next-level moment from AT&T Business. Say you've sent out a gigantic shipment of pillows, and they need to be there in time for International Sleep Day. You've got AT&T 5G, so you're fully confident. But the vendor isn't responding, and International Sleep Day is tomorrow. Luckily, AT&T 5G lets you deal with any issues with ease, so the pillows will get delivered and everyone can sleep soundly, especially you. AT&T 5G requires a compatible plan and device. Coverage not available everywhere. Learn more at att.com/5G network.